Hello, this is Riley Smith with Make Good Creative Network. We're gonna complain today about freelancer red flags. So I have my coffee mug because I feel like that is necessary when discussing freelancer-y things. I wanted to do this because I know when you are starting out as a new freelancer, it can be hard to tell what is a sign to run, what is a sign to be a little bit concerned, and what is actually just par for the course. So this video will have 3 sections. The first is the red flags. These are the things where you will regret working with this person and could possibly be that they're trying to drag you down into some legal quagmire. So these are the absolute red flags, like run away, bitch, run away. So the second category we'll be talking about is just pink flags. So these are things that like aren't great. And if you don't have to work for that client, you should probably avoid or just be like aware. As a freelancer, a lot of work is like unfortunately not going to be great. You're not always going to have clients who you really love. You will have a couple of them that you do, but these are the flags where it's like, let's pay close attention to what this person is going to do next. And more importantly, to make sure that you are extra firm on your boundaries with that person. So that's kind of what the pink flags are. Like, these are the people who you need to be really firm on your boundaries with. You can tell I'm talking about freelancing because I'm doing my like aggressive business smile. I'm watching myself and I'm like, why am I smiling so wide? And it's the aggressive business smile. I'm friendly on Zoom calls. All right. The third category is going to be things that are not red flags. In my opinion, they're just par for the course for freelancing, and it's up to you to decide how to deal with them, but don't feel like you're doing something wrong or you're the only person dealing with them if you do deal with these. So first, let's talk about red flags. The first one is when they ask you to do the entire project as a sample. So this can happen. I've seen like ads for people who need script writing, and they'll ask you to write like a 1,500 word script on a specific topic and be like, this is just for a sample. Don't do the whole project for free just to get a client and hope that they'll pay you. That sucks. They can see your work. Like, a legit client will look at previous work you've done, seen your quality, and hire you based on that. They're not going to ask you to do a whole project for free just to prove yourself. Even if you're brand new, this is not a good idea because you don't have really any firm confirmation that they're not going to use your work that you sent in without you knowing. It's the internet. They could put it on a YouTube channel you never see or put it on a blog that you never find. So don't do work for free, even if they're like, oh, it's just a sample. Like, maybe if it's a really small sample. Another example of this that I don't like is if people are looking for slogans. This actually happens a lot. People will be looking for a slogan for their brand or whatever, and they'll ask everyone who submits to send in 5 ideas. That sucks. That's cheating. I just avoid those people generally. If you want to compete that way with other freelancers, I guess go ahead, but that's definitely a big red flag because it means that they're trying to get work out of people without paying. That sucks. They're not going to make good clients. This next one is a really big red flag, like a legal issue red flag, when they're reluctant to communicate in writing. If you have a client, and I have had this happen, who only wants to talk on the phone. Now, okay, you are going to have clients who prefer talking on the phone, especially if you're working with older people. My parents would be so offended that I just like lumped them into the older people category, but like, yeah, if you're working for anybody who's above a millennial, they're probably going to prefer phone calls. They're going to prefer talking over Zoom or on a phone call, even if you hate that. But that's not necessarily a problem. The problem is when they say things on the phone to you and then you email it in a follow-up and they don't respond, they don't confirm. Like if they're reluctant to put anything in writing, like this is why they say like always get a contract. I'm bad. I don't always get like a contract, but I always get an email of like, this is the scope, this is how much it's gonna cost, this is when I'll get it to you, and confirmation from the person I'm working with that says, yes, that is the plan, I agree. So if somebody is not willing to provide that confirmation or confirm anything for you over email, that's a big red flag. They're hiding shit. They're sus. Don't do it. Don't do it. You'll regret it. Another red flag that's like kind of about legalities is if you're not a lawyer, like if you're not literally a legal consultant or a paralegal or something, and somebody asks you to do anything that's like legal documents or asks for you to get involved in something that sounds like something other than contract work, like a partnership, like if people start throwing that word around, just run. Like specifically, I had a client who started to ask me to draw up legal documents. I'm not a lawyer, that's not my wheelhouse. I'm a comedian. If you do not have legal experience, don't do anything for a client that is like related to laws. Just don't do it. Or they start talking about like, can you sign this? It says that we're partners in this project, but that's just like a technicality. Like, run from that shit. That's not good. Don't get involved in any legal nonsense. Just have like a clear contract that a lawyer on their side drew up, or you have your boilerplate contract that you use. Do not get into anything legal beyond that. People will ask. You'll have some shady bitch who's like, can you do this for me? Or like, sign this weird paper. Don't do it. Just stick to your boilerplate contract. It's beautiful. The next red flag is a big one, especially if you are a young woman like me. Don't deal with negging or insults. Clients will sometimes hire you as a young woman. I don't know, because they're excited to like mentor, and that's okay. It gets you work, and you can learn things from people who have been like. I have marketing clients who I've learned a lot from because they're like good marketers, and they asked me to do copywriting, and I've learned from them, and they've learned from me, and that's cool. That's not necessarily the problem. The problem is if somebody hires you and is insulting you off the bat, don't work with them, because they're doing it to manipulate you. If they really thought that your writing was bad, your art was bad, what you're doing is not good, they shouldn't hire you. They should hire somebody else. That doesn't make any sense. So don't deal with people who are like, oh, if we work together, I'm sure I can, your writing is amateurish, but I'm sure we can improve together. Like, no, none of that shit. Just avoid people who talk to you like that. Don't work with them at all. And not even because like they're being mean to you. Like, people are gonna give you feedback and sometimes it's really gonna sting, but I mean like people who are flat out like, you're bad at this. Like insulting you to the point where it doesn't make sense that they hired you. That level means that they are manipulating you for some reason, like they're trying to manipulate you. So again, this is different than feedback. Like, I've turned in work to clients before where they've been like, wow, this is not working. Like, we're not getting any click-throughs on this. But see, that's like feedback about the piece and feedback about, or like they'll say like, this doesn't make any sense. That's reasonable. But if somebody flat out is like, your writing is bad, then it's like, all right, see you, sis, hire somebody else. Go find somebody whose writing you like. It doesn't make any sense. So really you end up not only protecting your like self-esteem, but it's more than that. It is avoiding clients who have something to hide. Because why would they be hiring you if they don't think you're good at what you do? There's something fishy going on there. So avoid negging and insults. Take feedback, but recognize that it's different than somebody directly saying like, you're bad at this. This is a red flag. There is a little bit of wiggle room here in that I'll talk about this more in pink flags, but clients are just always gonna want a little bit more out of you. That's just, they're busy business people. They're gonna try to do that. You're responsible for setting good boundaries for yourself. But a big red flag is anybody who makes it clear that they're expecting full-time availability from a freelancer, like without full-time benefits. Like if somebody wants you to be on call, ready for anything that they need from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and occasionally on weekends, that's a problem. They need a salaried employee. That's, I'm sure some freelancers will disagree with me on this, but I'm a big believer in like, why become a freelancer if you don't want to have freedom? And I'm not talking about people who like, they might have like an emergency project for you on Wednesday afternoon and they need it back that afternoon. Okay, that happens. It's not prime, but like, you know, you if you're fine with that, you can make it work. I'm talking about the people who want you to just work with them, for them, who don't understand you have other clients, who don't want you to have other clients. And people will like make this clear in the job posting that they're going to need 40 hours of work from you. It's like, don't do that if you're a freelancer. Just if you want to work for one person 40 hours a week, get a salaried job. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And if you want someone to be available to you 40 hours a week, get a salaried employee. So that's a red flag. Like I said, there's like degrees and you have to kind of figure out where you're comfortable with, but on that side of the spectrum of like, we will have 38 hours of work for you every week and we expect you to be available for calls every morning to talk with the team. That shit, avoid that. They just need to buy an employee. They need to get a salaried employee. God, capitalism is awful. Another big red flag, they don't actually want their name on the product. Like whatever you make for them, they don't actually want to put it on their site. Okay, I'm not talking about like you're an influencer or you have a blog and they want you to review their product. That's okay. That's legit because their name is going to be on there and you need to say like, I was paid for to give my honest opinion. Like that you're required to state that. Okay, that's all legit. That's all above board. I'm talking about the very few cases where they might ask you to leave an Amazon review and not mention that they asked you. Or they want you to post something to a blog that's not theirs, but they want you to post on it. They want you to start a new blog. There's like a lot of weird ways for this one to go down. But if they want you to make a product that does not at all have their name on it, and is not like clearly associated with them, that's weird. Like it's either for them or for a client of theirs. If it's not that, like that is weird. That's a big red flag because it means that they're trying to do something without the liability of having their own name attached. So watch out for that. The last red flag that I'll talk about, and you'll notice a lot of these are like pretty egregious because I believe, a lot of this is about where do you put your boundaries? What type of a life do you want to live? That's a great thing about freelancing. You get to decide what you're willing to put up with. So there's not a lot of things that I consider like hard and fast red flags. So if it's not something that I listed here, then just consider, what are you comfortable with? What do you want your life to look like as a freelancer? But the last red flag, when you're looking at job postings in particular, is when people act like they're helping you out. Like by offering you the wondrous opportunity to work for them. Like, this is similar to negging, but it's like a weird thing that people will do posts looking for freelancers and they'll be like, this is the opportunity you've been waiting for to improve your skills. We'll teach you how to properly write a blog. And what that means is they want to pay you shit money. That's it. That's what it means. They want to pay you shit money and justify it to themselves by saying it's like a teaching, like they're teaching, you know? Nobody's doing anyone any favors here. They need a task completed. You are offering to spend time to accomplish that task. That's it. That's the relationship. If a job posting or a person talking to you is acting like that they're doing you a favor or they're training you, it's generally bad. It's an alarm that they just want to treat you poorly and pay you worse. Oh, little mini red flag. And like this, you know, this one might even be a pink flag, like just like little alarm, but that's probably a red flag. Anybody who says like this will be easy, a simple task won't take you more than 20 minutes. It's like it takes at least an hour to post a job and find a freelancer. If the job was really only gonna take 20 minutes, they could have done it themselves. So don't believe that. It's gonna take some time because you have to talk to the client about like what it is that they need. That alone is probably gonna take 20 minutes. So people who say that again, it's not so much about like what they're directly saying, but the type of people who say that, and the people who say that are, once more, trying to pay you shit money and pretend like what you're doing is invaluable. So if the task is like actually easy, like you agree, then maybe it's just like you didn't really need to say that. But often this is also a sign that they're gonna ask you to do other work along with like they get you in with the easy task, and then they're like, oh, but there's these 3 other things that come with it, and they try to act like that's part of it. Yeah, it's just not good vibes. I would call that a red flag. If they're really, really like, this is so easy to do. It's like, if it's so easy, why don't you do it? Why don't you go do it yourself, boo? Why do you need me? Because they're not going to value your work if they're talking like that. They're setting you up to not value yourself as well. Now that we've talked about the red flags, and as you saw, there is some nuance to those, but if you see those circumstances happening and there's a little twinge in your belly that says this doesn't seem right, it's not right. Avoid that client. But let's talk about the pink flags. These are the things that are the warning signs that don't necessarily mean you shouldn't work with this client, but they're not going to be your favorite. And you need to be very careful about your boundaries with this client. So the first pink flag, and this is something that annoys me, is when people say that there will be opportunities for rate increases later. A lot of times people will post this. They'll like say like, oh, the job starts at this much, but there's an opportunity later for it to go up if we really like your work. This is a pink flag to me because one, it shows that they know that the amount they are currently offering is not what the work should be worth. They're already saying that they would like to increase the rate for somebody who's actually like good at it. Second, they're priming you to offer a lower amount. They're just trying to get you to offer a lower amount. The way to deal with this, so the way to deal with all the red flags is to just like not deal with that client. The pink flags, I'm gonna share with you a little bit more of like, here's how to actually like make sure this doesn't turn into a red flag moment. The way to deal with this person is to just bid or just ask for the rate that you would always ask for that work. Don't accept a lower rate because the client is promising they'll send more work your way later. One, they won't. They won't. The people who say this, I've noticed like they never send more work your way later. They just take your cheap work and say, so long. So don't do that. And two, if the work is worth that amount, do it for that amount. Don't take the lower amount. Take whatever your rate is. There's no sense in doing the first 2 hours of a task cheaper so that you just lose money that way. So just bid or tell the client that your rate is your rate whatever you think is fair, whatever you've gotten for that work in the past. Don't accept a lower rate just because a client says that in the future they will raise it, because they won't. Why would they? You've agreed to work for cheap, so what's the point for them raising it later? My other pink flags are just 3 words that show up a lot in job ads, gig ads. This is also just kind of a pink flag, I think, for like people who are searching for companies, but just a couple words. These are definitely pink flags because a lot of them are also just jargon, but I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what these terms tend to actually mean when you see them on ads for freelance work. Fast-paced. That means disorganized. That means that everything's a fire alarm. They're gonna send you shit at like 4:30 on a Friday and want it back in like 30 minutes. I don't deal with that shit, but the way that you make sure you don't get caught up in their like 3-ring circus at a place that says that they're fast paced is set clear boundaries. So I always say with clients that I need at least a day turnaround on things. And if they can't offer at least a day turnaround, they should do it internally. I do make exceptions sometimes for really good clients. Like I said, this is all about your boundaries. But when I do make an exception, I expect a bonus on the project for like a rush bonus for doing it faster. The other word to watch out for, passionate. If they're not about themselves, they can be passionate. That's awesome. But if they want you to be passionate, especially if it's about something that's not that interesting. Now, if it's like, we're looking for someone who's passionate about helping a disabled youth learn valuable life skills, that's something to be passionate about. That's cool. If they're like, we're looking for someone who's passionate about SEO. Nobody's passionate about SEO. It's like it's a cool thing when you get into the nitty gritty, if you're like, have that type of brain, but nobody's like, oh man, this is why I get up in the morning, you know? So if an ad is asking you to only apply if you're really passionate about something that is boring, that is a pink flag in that it means they want you to be really, really dedicated to their project, even if it's dull, and they're probably hoping to pay you less. That is what a lot of these things translate to. If somebody's looking for someone who's passionate about SEO, they mean that they want you to always be on time for not that great money. Now, maybe you are a person who is very excited about your work and very punctual, then really this passionate isn't that much of a pink flag for you, but only if you make sure to get the rate that you think is fair. Don't let them talk you down because like, oh, this project is going to be so cool for you. Like, you're really going to love it. Like, don't take a lower rate because they think you're really going to love helping their website get higher results on Google. Like, they should be passionate about their business, but you are a freelancer. You were ships passing in the night. If they wanted someone who was going to be dedicated to their mission, they should hire a full-time employee. The next kind of pinkish flag word is flexibility. The whole point of being a freelancer is flexibility. So what this generally means is that they're going to ask you to do things at shitty times, like really late on Fridays or really early on Sunday mornings, or like they're going to ask you to work on a project and then not need it anymore, which you have to make sure, again, set down very clear boundaries, ask for the rate. If you don't work weekends, make that clear up front. So if a client says that they're looking for a freelancer with a lot of flexibility, then you can apply. This isn't a red flag. This isn't like a super weird or malicious thing for them to ask for, but just make sure that you are explicit about your boundaries and when you are willing to work. Because when they say flexibility, they mean they want you to work Saturdays. So if you don't work weekends, tell them. If you don't take calls after 6 p.m., tell them. If you don't take calls at all, tell them. I don't take phone calls. I, like, beyond maybe the first interview, I generally don't even give my phone number to freelance clients. We talk over Zoom or over email, and that's what I do. I don't like giving my phone number out to clients, and it helps me maintain healthy work hours and boundaries with clients. So a lot of times people are asking for flexibility. They want your phone number so that they can call you on Saturday morning and ask you to finish something that day. That I don't do that shit. So maybe you do. Maybe you like that. That's up to you. So that's why this is pink flag. But just so you know, flexibility means that they want you to be available to them on weekends and at nights. Now we are on to what I think is a very interesting section. These are the things that might feel like red flags or might feel like, this feels off, but that I really think are not, that are just like normal freelancing things that come with the territory. So let's get into it. The first one is bargaining with you. I've talked a lot before about people doing things to pay you less. Those are shady things, and that's why I think they deserve flags, but just flat out like haggling with you over the rate, being like, well, if I ask for 5 emails instead of 3, can I get a discount for a larger order? These are standard questions. It might be a little annoying, but that's just a busy business thing. People are going to try to bargain and haggle with you a little bit. So be ready to haggle. Be ready to stand firm with your rate. I don't really haggle. I kind of just tell people what my rate is and they can take it or leave it. That's worked for me so far. It's mainly because I don't like I don't like the feeling of bargaining and haggling. I'm very conflict adverse, funnily enough. So I tend to just take I don't negotiate. I'm just like, this is how much I cost. If you want it, that's it. But it's not a red flag if a client tries to bargain with you. You just have to decide okay, what is my strategy with negotiation? Am I just telling people this is what I'm worth and I'm not actually going to negotiate? Or do I start a little higher to leave some wiggle room? You have to decide that, but that's not actually a red flag from a client. You can have a very good client that starts out by haggling a rate with you. And I have had clients, when I asked for rate increases, who I did a $20 rate increase on my clients 2 years ago, I think. Because I've been getting better. I've been getting better at the thing. I've been improving my knowledge. So I asked for a $20 rate increase. And one of my clients came back and was like, I don't think I can really do that right now. Could we do a $15 increase? And I said yes. I felt like that was perfectly fine with me. That was fair. They were just starting out their company and it was a nonprofit. I took the context into, I felt good about it. I was like, all right, what's $5 between friends? Which is maybe not the best attitude, but I thought it was still a very fair rate for the work I was doing. So negotiation, bargaining is not necessarily, or it's not a bad thing. It's just something that's going to happen and you have to be ready for it and figure out your strategy. The other thing that might feel like a red flag but isn't is ghosting you and then returning. That's just going to happen, boo. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about it. Clients, that's why they hire a freelancer. That's why you can get freelance work, is because they have the flexibility to just ditch you for a while. Even my best clients will sometimes go radio silent for 3 weeks and then all of a sudden reappear with a bunch of work. Or, I'll have a client who I work with for a couple of weeks and it's great and then they disappear. As long as I get paid, I'm not talking about people who disappear and don't pay you, but people who stop giving you more work, or maybe you're interviewing with somebody and they disappear for a couple weeks and then they come back. Because a lot of the people who are using freelancers are small to medium-sized business owners. I guess small business owners, because in the US, small businesses can be massive. They can be several $1 million affairs. But small business owners who might suddenly not have the money or not have the approval, or need to figure out their budget, and then they'll come back to you a month later and be like, okay, I am ready to start now. And people are busy, and that's why they use freelancers. So if you get ghosted, don't worry. It's okay, it's perfectly normal, and it does not mean that this person is not gonna end up being a good client. Except in matters of payment. Keep that in mind. If they do not answer you when you're talking about payment, that is a red flag. But any other type of ghosting, disappearing act, coming back and forth, it's not that big a deal. It's just part of being a freelancer. Another thing that may seem like a red flag, but really isn't. Different company names. Like, you might talk to a person who initially seems like they work for Zuelia Beauty Brands Limited, and then you end up actually working with a marketer who's working for like Dee Dee's hair styling. And then, but the blog you actually end up writing for is called like True Enough Hair Advice. If you hear snarfing, he is in here. Oh, there we go, knocking it over, baby. Yeah, so you might end up going through like several layers of different company names. That's normal. It's just a thing in America and probably other places, but I can't speak to those. I'm not there. But it's just a thing in America that there's like a parent company, and then like maybe the marketing branch of that parent company has its own name, and then they work with like a blog affiliate. And it doesn't mean it's not legit. It's probably all very carefully monitored by their lawyers. So don't worry about that. It might seem kind of weird to like think you're hired by one company and then they shuffle you over to another. But that's just kind of a thing that happens in America. Now, I did have an experience where I was hired by somebody who said that they were working with a company, but then when I looked up that company did not like really seem to exist, or rather there were no other employees in that company, even though he was claiming to be like an oil consulting firm. So if somebody says they're working for a company and you do like a basic level of Googling and it looks off, that's bad. That's like not good. But I have a different client who, the lady that I work with is technically working under a different company name than like the brand that I actually write things for. That's not in itself a red flag. That's fairly normal for companies in the US. Another thing that you might not like, but is just standard for freelancing, is 30-day payment terms. Some companies have as long as 60-day payment terms. If they tell you this up front, and always make sure that you ask, how long does it take you to pay? But some companies are huge and their wheels turn slowly. So you might turn in some work and turn in your invoice and not get paid for 2 months. It's not a red flag. It just means that they have a lot of bureaucracy and you need to plan accordingly. Now, it is a red flag if they tell you that they're going to pay you right away and then you wait 2 months. Don't do any more work for those people. But just a company having 30-day or 60-day payment terms does not in itself mean it's a bad contract. It just means you're going to have to be aware when you are budgeting and planning your expenses. Can you guys hear my dog just chewing? Just big, juicy chewing noises in the background. Incredible. The other thing that might feel like a red flag but isn't, and is totally up to your personal choice, is ghostwriting. A lot of people will ask you to write things for their blog that they will then post under their name. There's also a lot of ghostwriting contracts out there to write fiction. Or they want you to take a photo or whatever, program a website, whatever it is, and they want to not put your name on it. Totally up to you if you're okay with that. If you never want to do any ghostwriting contracts, that's fine. I don't take ghostwriting contracts anymore. Except in some cases with like marketing where it doesn't really make sense to have like a buy that like, I've done marketing campaigns for like the text that they put at the end of like aisles in grocery stores, like the poster that they're gonna put up. Obviously I don't demand to have like buy Riley Smith, like that seems a little odd. But I don't ghostwrite fiction or blogs anymore. I put my name on that shit. So But I used to do a lot of ghostwriting contracts. I'll probably do a different video about kind of the pros and cons of ghostwriting. I think that for where I was at the time, it was a really good idea to do ghostwriting contracts. So it's not necessarily a red flag. It doesn't mean that the business is shady. It could be some of your best, most regular clients. Like one of my best early clients was ghostwriting. And I got my start in freelancing because this person always had more work for me. So it's not necessarily like that they're shady. It just means that they don't want to put your name on the thing. They want to put a fake name, or they want to put their own name or their company's name, more often the brand's name on the blog or whatever it is. So it's up to you. If you want to do that, I totally understand. If you're not into it, and like I said, especially when you're starting out, it can be a good source of consistent work. So ghostwriting is not necessarily a red flag. However, it is a good sign that you're probably not going to get expert rates. Usually ghostwriting contracts are not as well paid as stuff where they want to put your name on it, oddly enough. So totally up to you, but like I said, it worked really well for me starting out, but I don't do it anymore. So I can see both, so it's up to you, but it's not a red flag. Somebody asking for ghostwritten work does not necessarily mean that they're going to be a bad client. They're not worth your time. It's going to be a legal hassle. It's just not a red flag. It's just up to your personal preference. So that was the red, pink, and no flags as a freelancer that I have come across. Kind of my hot take on how to deal with each of them. A lot of it comes down to personal preference. There is some nuance here. I tried to only call things red flags if they're hella aggressive, because just as freelancers, a lot of situations are not going to be great. You're going to have clients that you don't super enjoy. But the nice thing is you get to figure out what the line is, that if somebody crosses it, you leave forever and you don't work with them anymore. So that's the great thing about freelancing. Just remember to always set your boundaries really clearly from the gate. Figure them out with yourself first, not in negotiation, and they're going to shift over time. Like I said, I used to ghostwrite. I don't anymore. I used to do same-day turnaround for projects. I don't anymore. And the trade-off is that now I work on more complicated projects. The stuff I'm doing is harder. So I ask for more time, and clients are willing to give me that. Do you have any questions about any of the red flags that we have discussed here, or are you wondering about anything that you've seen out in the wild? Go ahead and put it in the comments below, but don't be offended if I put like, you should talk to a lawyer about that. Like I said, I avoid doing any legal advice. I am not a lawyer. None of this is legal advice. There's my disclaimer. So if you put something down there, I might be like, you need to go talk to a lawyer about that shit. But for most of them, I'll probably just tell you if it sounds weird and shady, or if it's just par for the course for freelancing. So let me know in the comments. We do a lot of writing, comedy, freelancing, general creativity content on this channel. So make sure that you like and subscribe. We have a whole playlist of freelancer shiz, so check that out. But yeah, make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. And most importantly, let's go make some money.